Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing 5 Easy Pieces. So 5 Easy Pieces came out in 1970 and was directed by Bob Rafelson. So this film stars Jack Nicholson as an oil rigger. He lives with his girlfriend who is played by Karen Black. And this film really deals with the theme of loneliness and isolation and finding yourself. So Jack Nicholson's character, as I said, he's an oil rigger, but he actually comes from a rather rich background, but he's ended up becoming an oil rigger and living with some locals where it's a real different kind of environment to where he grew up. We get the sense that his character is not entirely happy, although he has a girlfriend and he has some friends. He doesn't really seem to like his job very much, and when one of his friends is talking about his family and his lifestyle, Jack Nicholson is almost mocking him and sort of thinking of his friend's lifestyle as being trailer trash, as he refers to it. So we really get the sense that Jack Nicholson really doesn't identify with his friends and also with his girlfriend as well. Because his girlfriend, as I said, played by Karen Black, she really enjoys listening to country music, particularly Tammy Wynette, and in fact we hear a few Tammy Wynette songs throughout the film, including Stand By Your Man. And this song, I suppose, could link in with the relationship between Jack Nicholson and Karen Black. We really get the sense that they are different sorts of people, although Karen Black has a real taste for music. Jack Nicholson's character actually grew up listening to more classical music. And as we go throughout the film, we start to find out more about Jack Nicholson's background, and that he was an excellent pianist when he was younger, but he somehow moved away from doing that later in life and has almost forgotten that side of him and forgotten that part of his childhood. There was a really terrific scene when Jack Nicholson and his friend, they're driving along the highway and they get stuck in traffic. So Jack Nicholson's character, he gets out of the car and he finds an old piano which is on the back of the truck, and he simply gets onto the piano and starts playing. And this is really strange when watching it because we don't know anything about his character's background. He hasn't spoken about this before, and as we find more and more about him, this makes the film much more interesting and us as the audience much more invested in his character. Given that this was the first time that I'd seen this film, I didn't know much about it except for that Jack Nicholson was in it, and having now watched it, it does remind me a lot of a few other films from a similar era. It reminds me in many ways of Easy Rider, especially with the theme of finding yourself, and also a few years after this the film Taxi Driver came out, and although this film isn't quite as dark as Taxi Driver, the theme of a man particularly trying to find himself and not being able to fit in, that definitely is a recurring theme in both of the films. I also think that this film, along with Easy Rider, is very much a film of its time, although it's not necessarily a counterculture film in the same way that Easy Rider is. It's a time in America particularly when some men maybe felt like they didn't know what was going on in the world. I suppose this was only 7 years after the assassination of JFK, and when the Vietnam War was still going on. So we had quite a few films like this, also ones like Midnight Cowboy, for example, with these sorts of films very much of its time. You could say it is still relevant almost 50 years later, but I think particularly for its time, it is a very relevant film and really makes its mark on this point in history. Jack Nicholson gives a great performance in this film. He's one of my favourite actors of all time. I think every film I've seen him in, he's been fantastic, and he didn't disappoint in this film. He gives a great performance. He has a lot of range. There are some moments in the film where he suddenly flips and he gets angry, and in terms of the emotion, I suppose this is what his character is all about, him not being able to connect with other people. He doesn't seem to love his girlfriend very much. He cheats with other women on several occasions throughout this film, but he can't even connect with them either. There's this one scene where he actually gets onto the piano, he's playing the piano, and one of the women that he's with, she really feels emotional when listening to his performance, but he then says that he was simply playing the easiest piece of music he could remember and that he felt no emotional connection to it at all. So even when some of the characters are trying to connect with him, he seems to almost push them away, almost as if he's not interested. Towards the end of the film, we do see his relationship with his father, and what that is like, and that is really interesting to see some of his character's backstory in terms of how he got to this point where he is now. I'm not going to spoil too much about the ending scene of this film, but it's a very eerie and haunting scene, and it actually reached a point where I was a bit surprised that it ended so suddenly, but the shot just lingers for quite a while just on this area where the characters are, and it gives us, the audience, a chance to think about what has just happened, why the characters have made these decisions, what exactly is going on, and what could happen after the film was finished. And it works extremely well because the way the shot lingers, like I said, it leaves it up to us. It lets us think a bit more about what we've just seen, and it finishes off the film perfectly, and overall just wraps us up to make this a very thought-provoking and very interesting film. So overall, as you can probably tell, this is a film I really appreciated. I thought Jack Nicholson's performance was great. I thought that all the supporting performances were fantastic. I really appreciate that this is released on a Criterion collection as well, which gives a really high quality presentation and also makes the film very good looking. It is quite bright as well. The cinematography is very nice, and I do like the soundtrack as well, particularly with the country songs from Tammy Wynette. In terms of what I didn't like, well, I can't think of too much, if I'm honest. I didn't think the film was slow in many parts. I always felt interested. There are some films I've seen which do this type of storyline, which I have seen before. So in terms of watching it, I wouldn't say it's the most original film. I've seen films like this quite a few times. Like I said, there's other films that this reminds me of. But having said that, this is a film that does what it wants to do extremely well. So I'm going to give 5 Easy Pieces a rating of 9 out of 10. I would say it is definitely worth watching. If you like films that deal with emotion, this is definitely an excellent pick. And also, as I said, Jack Nicholson, a fantastic actor. In this film, he delivers a great performance. So it's worth watching just for Jack Nicholson alone, in my opinion. So there we go. So that is my review of 5 Easy Pieces. So what do you guys think? Have you seen 5 Easy Pieces? If you have seen it, please feel free to post a comment down below. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.